All right, today we are going to dive into the world of 3D shapes and settle a classic geometric debate. What really is the difference between a prism and a pyramid? You see these shapes everywhere, but you might be surprised how specific their definitions actually are. Let's get right into it. So let's kick things off with a little puzzle for you. What on earth does a Toblerone bar have in common with one of the great pyramids of Egypt? I mean, they're both famous 3D shapes for sure, but one is a prism and one is a pyramid. By the time we're done here, you'll know exactly which is which, and more importantly, why. Okay, first up, let's make the case for our first shape, Team Prism. You can think of these as the fundamental building blocks of the 3D world, and that's for a very good reason. They are absolutely everywhere, from giant skyscrapers to the cereal box in your kitchen. Now, here is the most important rule for any prism. It's the one thing you have to remember. A prism absolutely must have two identical, parallel faces. We call these its bases. Think of them like the floor and the ceiling of a room. They have to be the exact same shape and size.
Let's break that down a bit. First, those two identical bases, that's the key. And those bases can be any polygon you can think of. Triangles, squares, pentagons, you name it. Second, the shape of that base is what gives the prism its name. So if the bases are triangles, well, it's a triangular prism. And third, here's the other big rule. The faces that connect those two bases are always rectangles.
Let's make this real with a classic example, a shoebox. In geometry, we'd call this a cuboid. Now think about it. It's got a rectangle on the bottom, right? And an identical, perfectly parallel rectangle on the top. Those are its two bases. And what about the four sides connecting them? Yep, four more rectangles. It follows every single rule. It's a perfect prism. Okay, so Team Prism has made a pretty solid case, but now it's time to meet the competition. A shape that, you could say, is all about getting to the point. Let's talk about pyramids. And right off the bat, we see the single biggest difference. A pyramid only has one base. A prism has two. A pyramid has one. From that single base, all the other faces shoot upwards as triangles, and they all meet at one single point at the very top. We call that point the apex.
So you see, the rules for a pyramid are just as clear-cut. It's got one base, which, just like a prism, can be any polygon. All of its side faces are triangles that come together at that one point, the apex. And yep, you guessed it, a pyramid also gets its name from the shape of its base. So a pyramid with a square at the bottom is a square-based pyramid. Simple.
What you're looking at here is a great way to visualize this. It's called a net. It's basically the 2D blueprint that you could fold up to make the 3D shape. To make a square pyramid, you'd start with one square for the base and then attach four triangles to its sides. When you fold all those triangles up, where do they go? They all meet perfectly at that one single point, the apex.
All right, now that we've properly met both of our contenders, it's time for the main event. Let's put them side by side and really nail down the differences. This table really makes it crystal clear, doesn't it? Let's go through it. Number of bases, 2 for a prism, 1 for a pyramid. Done. Shape of the side faces, rectangles for a prism, triangles for a pyramid. Easy. And even the corners, or vertices, follow a different math. For a prism with a square base, you have 4 corners on the bottom and 4 on the top for 8 total. But for a square-based pyramid, you have the 4 corners on the base, plus that one special corner at the top, the apex, for a total of 5. Totally different formulas. Okay, so you're feeling like an expert on shapes with flat, polygon faces. But what happens when we throw a curveball into the mix? Let's talk about the cylinder. Does it fit in with these other shapes? Let's find out. The best way to understand a cylinder is to imagine taking it apart. So you start with the two flat ends, right? The top and the bottom. Those are perfect circles. Now imagine you take a pair of scissors and make one straight cut, top to bottom, down the curved side. What happens when you unroll it and lay it flat, kind of like peeling the label off a can of soup? You get a perfect rectangle. So, when you put it all back together, here's the key fact you need to know. A cylinder is made of 2 flat, circular faces and one single continuous curved surface. So, is it a prism? Well, not technically, because its bases aren't polygons. But it definitely shares that prism DNA, doesn't it? It's got those 2 identical, parallel bases. So why do we even need to tell these shapes apart? Does it really matter? Well, it turns out that once you train your eye to look for them, you'll realize our entire world is built using these fundamental shapes. And look, this isn't just about passing a math test.
Understanding these properties is absolutely crucial in huge fields like architecture, engineering, and design. Questions like, how much can this box hold? Or how do we build a roof that's stable? It all comes back to knowing the basic rules of these simple shapes.
So we're going to leave you with a little challenge. Right now, wherever you are, just take a look around you. The screen you're watching this on is probably a rectangular prism. That book on your shelf, that's one too. Maybe a lampshade is part of a cone, which is like a pyramid's curvy cousin. What else can you spot? We promise, once you start looking for prisms and pyramids, you'll start seeing them absolutely everywhere.